When you think of Bruce Lee, you might think of, cheesy 60s, 70s martial art movies. But let me tell you, he's a lot more in depth, a lot more special than just being a martial artist of that era. He was a philosopher, a brilliant philosopher, not just in his style of martial arts, but the idea of taking what is useful and rejecting what is useless. I mean, that principle alone, you could apply it to so many things, to spiritual practices, to politics, to things in your life, to discipline, to exercise, to diet, and even benzo withdrawal, right? And so one thing he said was, empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. He often said that, be like water. He said, if you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. If you put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. He goes on to say, now water can flow or it can crash. It can seem very weak, but it can penetrate rock. Be like water. So what is he saying here, essentially? And what I take from it is he's speaking a message of evolution, right? Evolution it's the most misquoted thing ever, right? That evolution means the strongest survive. That's not true. The strongest don't survive. That's not, that may be certainly a help, but can also hinder you in a lot of ways. It's the creature that is most adaptable, most pliable. That's the creature that survives. The one that can adapt to their environment, that can flow like water to their environment. Now, what does this mean for benzo withdrawal and recovery? It means stop going against the currents, for one, and realize that this thing that you're battling, although you may have this fixed idea of how it's supposed to go, what it's supposed to look like, how fast and when you should be tapered off, or how quickly you should be recovered. Maybe it's been a few weeks or a month and you've been off the benzo, and why hasn't it happened? It should have happened. Of course, you're humbled to realize doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what we want. The world and the currents have their own way. And the more we fight against it, the more we try to white knuckle it, to beat our fist against the pavement, the more we try to direct the currents, the more we suffer. That is just a fact. The more we resist, the more we suffer. Another fact. The more we try to pull out of this thing, again, avoidance, resistance, isolation, rumination, looks like a million things, deconditioning, sensitization, all of this stuff starts to manifest from, at some point, a reaction that we had where we tried to take a left turn, where we tried to swim against the currents. And for a lot of us, coming through benzo recovery, it's going to forge or require us to forge a new path, a new way of thinking, a new way of eating, a new way of living, a new way of looking and perceiving ourselves, looking at ourselves, which has great implication, in regards to self-image, self-love, compassion. Are you hard on yourself? Do you beat yourself up constantly? Do you find reasons to give up, to quit, to throw in the towel, to lose hope, to get angry, to curse everyone around you because they don't get it, or they're not being supportive, or they're working against you? And it's true. There's so many factors around us. It's not about pointing a finger and saying anybody's doing it wrong. In fact, all of this is sort of on autopilot. It's our reflex. It's our reflex. Like you're in the grocery store and somebody's, takes their cart and bumps your cart and gives you a nasty look, and you have a reflex to that. And you want to yell at them, or you want to say something to them, or you want to take your cart and hit them back, or maybe maybe it makes you anxious and you want to run out of the darn store, right? You have a reflex. And we're trying to forge a path where we don't have a reflex. We have a chosen reaction. You say, how am I going to react to this situation? But perception's everything, of course. How do you see the situation? Take benzos. Are you a victim? Is the world against you? Where is your locus of control, as they say? How much do you attribute external events in your life to being within your power or working against you, or, again, just the flow of the river? The flow of the river. And so, again, this process is going to forge you guys. It's going to make you become different people in a sense. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to become more loving, more self-compassionate, more adaptable, more pliable. It's not a bad thing to become like a river. Again, it's not the survival of the strongest or the fittest. It's the survival of those willing to adapt, to change. And the truth is about beating benzos is it's a lot like anything else that's really hard. Although I'd say it's probably the most difficult thing that many of us will face. But let's take blood pressure. You got high blood pressure. Most of the time, you can bring this down. Dietary changes, exercise, cardio, meditation. Heck, I've had, dozens of clients that were able to get off of blood pressure meds just by meditating daily. I mean, how about that? Take type 2 diabetes. Yes, you can take insulin, or you drop 30, 40, 50 pounds, change your diet, you move more, exercise, drink water, pay attention to your nutrition, cut out a lot of the sugars as much as possible anyway. Sugars are bad, of course. And you change your body. Now you no longer need the insulin. Now you no longer need the blood pressure meds. Now you no longer need the benzo. You get it? But it is, in a sense, a desperate attempt if you're going to simply do nothing but ride out the storm, white knuckle it, lay and pray, don't change anything, and just expect to bounce back where you were before. And even as I say that, hear me, please, because I don't want to trigger anyone. You will. The majority of you especially will. Some of you will risk getting trapped in the undertow of manifestations from benzo withdrawal. Agoraphobia, insomnia, panic disorder, major depression, health anxiety, somatoform disorder, psychogenic effects, all those type of things manifest and they creep up. And most, to some degree anyway, will disappear and dissipate as we get on the other side of this. That's true. But there's also a very self-fueling mechanism to this stuff, right? And that can stick around. So again, the model of growth and recovery is one that requires us to change, to adapt, and to start to address all of these little factors one by one. And not just sweep them under the umbrella and say, well, it's all benzos. Okay, you can invest your money that way, so to speak, your health, and let's see how it plays out for you. And maybe it does do very well, and you say, see, I was right. And you go off into the sunset, you live your life, you came off benzos. Now, millions of people have that reaction and that result. So I'm not trying to spook anyone and say, well, Coach Powers is saying if you don't do these things. I'm not saying that. Millions of people will be fine. That's the reality. But also the reality is that if you're listening to this video, chances are you're one of the outliers, like me and many others. We didn't do good coming off benzos. We started having, interdose withdrawal and intolerance withdrawal before we ever started to taper the damn drug, right? The ride was going to be tougher for us. Or maybe the first or second or third time you had come off your benzos, it was a walk in the park, but this time is different. No matter if you are here and you're listening to this now, then chances are there's a lot of work to be done. Now, again, the focus on this talk is be like water. because the curriculum for recovery, it's not a 1, 2, 3 steps guide. It's not the ABCs of CBT is going to pull you through. It's everything. I mean, it's everything. It's a lifestyle change. It's learning new skill sets. It's learning to separate fear from anxiety, which is what people can go to therapy for years for that. It's self-work. It's self-growth. It's diet. It's nutrition. It's neuroplasticity building. It's learning the roadmap, the stages of recovery. In my own recovery program, I outlined 4 stages of recovery. And not only that, but I observed 3 key learning goals, things that we need to learn to progress to the next stage. It's a developmental system. And each stage has 3 key roadblocks, things that you need to watch out for. And if you don't, these things can really derail you. So have a roadmap, have a system in mind, and then learn everything you have to learn. Have the program, have the support, have everything, all your ducks in a row. And then the next piece of advice I have for you is let it all go, in a sense. What I mean is, do not grip so tightly. Do not become fixed and ruminated and obsessive, because that's what that neurosis that has been born in benzo withdrawal wants you to do. Hey everyone, I'm Coach Powers, and I'm excited to announce the launch of my new online Benzo Recovery School. The school launched with Module 1, and will have a total of 4 modules, each module with a dozen or more video lessons. Here are some contents in Module 1. This creates the basis for my recovery program. If you know anything about my approach to benzo recovery, you know I'm a bit different than other benzo coaches in that I do not subscribe to the lay and pray model of recovery. Instead, I believe benzo injury is a kind of neurological injury that requires neurological rehabilitation. This neurological rehabilitation encompasses learning how to access our good chemistry while also reducing the so-called bad chemistry, cortisol and adrenaline, and also learning how to lull down our hypervigilant limbic system. This includes learning techniques in CBT, DBT, mindfulness therapy, and neuroplasticity building. Now, I've studied clinical psychology for the last 15 years of my life, and my benzo recovery program encompasses the same things that I use to make my own recovery after a 10-year, 40 milligram Valium dependence. My recovery program observes 4 stages of recovery with 3 tiers of development. In fact, my stages are all focused on development. This makes them different than the 3 obvious stages of recovery, which include the pre-taper, the taper, and post-taper. Instead, my stages serve as a kind of developmental roadmap, with each stage serving as a bridge to the following stage. These 4 stages include Stage 1, restoring hope, Stage 2, the new beginning, Stage 3, the montage, and Stage 4, coming home. Perhaps most importantly, each stage has 3 key learning goals and also 3 key roadblocks. These stages revealed themselves to me after years of working with literally thousands of people from all around the world. After enough experience, you begin to see patterns and trends, and you see where people triumph and what roadblocks can prevent them from moving forward. Now remember, just because you may have come off your benzo doesn't mean you automatically reach Stage 4, the final stage. Again, these are developmental stages, which is why someone can come off of their benzo and still be stuck in their recovery. In fact, it's entirely possible to come off of your benzo and be stuck in Stage 1. Here are some other features the online Benzo Recovery School offers. Aside from being a school, it's also a positive focused support group. And believe me when I tell you, my students are a different breed of benzo warriors. They are wise, they are driven, and they understand the mission. I, Coach Powers, will also be doing live video Q&A weekly in the community, talking, teaching, and answering questions from all of you. There will be downloadable resources such as a rumination and exposure therapy log, templates for checklists, and much more. Additionally, there will be new benzo sleep affirmation videos exclusive for the school, as well as new and early original content. There will be a regular benzo blog, benzo-related news, and even a private early screening for my benzo recovery feature film, Lake of Fire. All of this and only for a special introductory rate of $30 monthly while time lasts. So come join the positive community and let's work together on facilitating our recovery. See you there.